Chapter 4 First Year The First Disappearance. Dear Reg, hello from Hogwarts. It feels weird to be writing you a letter. Classes won't start till Monday, so we've been given a few days for settling in. It's amazing here. You wouldn't believe the size of the place. And Bellatrix wasn't lying about the moving stairs. They actually do change around. They had to give us all maps so that we wouldn't get lost. Have Mum or Dad said anything about... Sirius Black was having the time of his life. He had never before been given free rein to do anything he wanted with his time. No restrictions or rules, no watchful parents, no scheduled lessons or social gatherings. Of course, there were limits at Hogwarts. The professors kept an eye on the students, admonishing them to stay out of mischief. But they were certainly nothing like Sirius's parents. When Professor Flitwick caught him and James sticking dung bombs along the Slytherin's corridor, he only confiscated the contraband and gave them a gentle, though stern, rebuke before sending them off with a twinkle in his eye. Sirius felt giddy with his newfound freedom. He spent his days running about the castle with James, exploring all the places he'd heard his cousins talk about. In the evenings they played games of chess or gobstones or exploding snap in the Gryffindor common room, chatting with their fellow students. And they talked. They talked about anything and everything. Sirius had never had a friend like James Potter, who could match his rapid-fire wit and discuss Quidditch for hours without getting bored. They could go on talking for ages, until it sometimes felt like they were in their own private world, somewhere that no one else could penetrate. Of course, this situation didn't always sit well with Peter. The boy acted as if he and James were attached at the hip, always following them around and trying to butt into their conversations. James liked him, so Sirius supposed that there must be something more to Peter that he wasn't seeing. But bloody hell, he was annoying. I've already made some friends. There are so many people here. I think James Potter and I are going to be best mates. He's the coolest. You'd like him. He told me he's got a Nimbus back home, the newest model, and once we're allowed to bring brooms to school, he's going to let me give it a go. I know Mum and Dad said to stay away from the Potters, but that's bollocks. Besides, they're purebloods too, so I don't really see why. Remus was the exact opposite. While Peter tagged along everywhere, involving himself in everything, Remus acted as if the three of them had some sort of contagious disease. He'd dart off with his map and his wand, disappearing into the castle without saying anything to the rest of them. At first, Sirius wondered if he had other friends, but every time he saw Remus, the boy was alone, and he still sat near them at dinner, though he stayed a few seats down and didn't speak to them. Whatever the reason, he made it clear that he didn't intend to be their friend. My other dormmates are all right too. One's a Pettigrew, Peter. He likes to whinge, and he's always following us around, but James says he's great once you get to know him, so I'm giving it a chance. The other's a half-blood. He told me he was Muggle-born, but Peter said his dad was a wizard, only he died when Remus was little, so I guess he grew up around Muggles. He seemed cool at first, but he's actually a bit of a prick. Too good to speak to us or something. He just goes off by himself and avoids everyone. I suppose Mum and Dad will make a fuss about consorting with the impure, but it's not as if I get to choose my room. They were all so used to Remus avoiding them that by the time Sunday night rolled around, none of them gave it a second thought that he was absent from their room. Sirius had spent the day with James and Peter out exploring the grounds, especially the Quidditch pitch, before heading back to their room. Sirius put on Abbey Road so that James and Peter could listen to it, insisting that he was about to change their lives. To his irritation, the other boys kept getting distracted. James kept asking questions about the words, and Peter wanted James to play chess, and both of them looked quite put out when Sirius told them to shut up and listen. Eventually he gave up, trying not to show how upset he was at their disinterest. "Sorry, mate," James shrugged. "It just doesn't sound that different from other music to me." "You uncultured swine!" Sirius threw his pillow at James, who laughed and batted it away. "The Beatles are gods amongst men. If Remus was here, he'd agree with me." "Where is Remus?" Peter piped up from the floor, where he was setting up his chessboard. It's almost curfew." They paused, looking at his empty bed, but none of them could answer. "How are things back home? Not too boring without me, I hope. Tell Creature I send my regards. Is he still sleeping in that awful little nest in the kitchen cupboard? Anyway, I can't wait for you to get here next year. I'm not sure if you already know, but I actually got placed in Gryffindor, not Slytherin. I know Mom and Dad will have a cow, but I actually think Gryffindor's way cooler anyway, and it doesn't even bother me." Curfew came and went, and Remus still didn't appear. Sirius kept glancing at his empty bed. He knew it was stupid, but he couldn't help wondering, was it their fault? It was quite clear that Remus disliked his roommates. Could he have asked to be transferred to another room? Was that even an option at Hogwarts? Could he have left the school entirely? "Do you think we should ask someone?" Sirius suggested. It was getting late, and he couldn't shake the worries that crept like vines through the back of his mind. Outside, night had fallen. The moon was high in the sky. "Maybe," James shrugged. "I suppose it couldn't hurt to ask Frank. Don't want to get him in trouble, though, if he's just running late." Sirius frowned. Yeah, he does like to wander off, that one." He smiled uneasily, glancing at the door. "How did Mom and Dad take the news? I mean, I obviously don't care what they think. It's not as if they can get me kicked out of Hogwarts just for getting sorted into the wrong house, but I'm just curious." Eventually, they simply went to bed. Sirius couldn't shake his unease, but this was Hogwarts. If Remus was in any serious trouble, then surely the teachers would know. Still, he slept poorly, and when he woke, Remus's bed was still empty. As he, James, and Peter got dressed, they resolved to ask Frank about it once they went down for breakfast. But just as they made the decision, the door to their room burst open. Remus barged in, moving stiffly. He looked haggard, as if he'd been up all night. His skin was sallow and pale, which only made the dark bags under his eyes stand out even more. "Where were you?" James asked, brow furrowed with concern. "Nowhere," Remus said gruffly, pushing past him to collect his things. Sirius watched him in the mirror where he had just finished getting ready. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," James said gently. "You look a bit weird." Remus scowled as if they had yelled at him, muttering, "Piss off!" Peter looked affronted, placing his hands on his hips. "We're just being nice," he said indignantly. Remus ignored him, going to remove his t-shirt, and stopped abruptly when he realized that they were all staring at him. "What?" he growled at them. "You all gonna watch me get dressed? You posh boys are all a bunch of poofs." He marched into the bathroom with his clothes and slammed the door. Sirius frowned. If it wasn't clear that he hated them before, it certainly was now. Still, there was something about the way he'd moved, as if he were in pain. "I'm hungry," Peter whinged. "If we don't hurry up, we'll miss breakfast." Sirius cast a meaningful look towards James, who shrugged as if to say, "What else can we do?" The three of them headed downstairs, leaving Remus as he liked to be, alone. "I miss you loads. Can't wait to see you at Christmas. And don't worry, I'll write you every week. I bet it'll start to feel like you're already here. Your brother, Sirius."